Kind of better. All right. All right, everybody. Welcome back in Fresh Takes with Russo and Felice. I am Paul Russo. Across from me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Nick Felice. Nick, how you doing? I did get to see you out in the wild this weekend, as I would call it.
Yeah, it was another good weekend at the Glen. But Paul, today is a special episode. With the reason.
Yeah, we are. Well, as we call it, it's one of your favorite times of the year. You know, uh, I know you are out here. You're offering your sage advice on the topic this year. We got a little bit of fantasy football preview talk.
Yep. It's
Um,
also our 150th
well, how
episode
about
as
that?
well.
Yeah.
Big milestone there. But yes, I always look forward to the fantasy one. So now, I always look forward to the NFL preview one as well. But I think I got a little bit of soft spot for the fantasy one, a little bit more.
Yeah. And then we're also going to touch on where I saw you in the wild this weekend, Watkins Glen. NASCAR is down there. We'll start with that because it's going to be easier to kind
Yeah.
of talk about that.
Thank goodness I went to Saturday's race.
Yeah, but I'm going to be honest with you. Racing in the rain's fun. Being at it in person is always a blast. I was there in 2019 when the Xfinity Series ran in the rain, and was there obviously yesterday when it happened, or well 2 days ago now. Get my dates kind of confused, but yeah, it was still a lot of fun. I mean, Watkins Glen's always a good time, but before we can't really jump fully into that quite yet. Obviously and stuff like that. So,
7 straight sellout.
yeah. I mean, they don't mess around there, man. I'm telling you, it's people, and the thing that's cool about it is, right. On a lot of this, I'll cue it up right now because it'll just be easier that way. But what's awesome about that, before we get into obviously the racing itself, this year was the first year, obviously post, still kind of in it, but really post 2020 pandemic. Last year they had it, and they had for what they could do a capacity crowd, right? But Watkins Glen's a big spot for Canadian fans. I mean, Canadian fans love coming down. It was awesome having pretty much everybody that's usually down there this year. And then some. I mean, I met people from Finland,
Really?
oddly enough, because of Kimi Räikkönen running. So, it was pretty cool. Having the whole group there, and I know you were only there on Saturday for work, and we were able to catch up a little bit for a few minutes, and I know you more than were happy to take back off to run to the air conditioned media center as opposed to the hot dog rotisserie grandstands that I were in.
Day, yes.
But yeah, let's talk about, right. Kyle Larson takes the two big race wins, right. Saturday with the Xfinity Series, Cup race on Sunday. Brandon Jones won the ARCA race Friday night. But Kyle Larson taking the two big, and obviously you being there on Saturday for a little bit, certainly a little bit different than the races last year that you covered with the truck and Xfinity race. Certainly a little bit more of an exciting ending, presumably for you to be in person and cover. I venture a guess anyway.
Yeah, another great weekend working there at the media center at WGI. I feel like I feel bad for you, Paul, because I don't deserve what I experience.
We're working on it. Don't worry.
You need to be there what I do, because just casually Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kyle Larson are just having a conversation next to me, and it's like it's cool for me, but that would be like a big deal for you. Like,
right.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is right next to me. Like, I leave the media center, and there's all the fans when you leave there, because that's where the drivers come out.
Yep.
And they're all waiting for autographs. And Dale, he's out there signing autographs. I just walk right by him. And then later, going down the street a little bit, some guy's just walking by me. No idea who he is because I'm not a huge NASCAR guy.
Right.
Some fan comes up to him. Yo, can I get your autograph, Ross?
Oh, you walked by Ross
Ross
Chastain.
Chastain, and
You-
I had no idea.
so you don't have no idea who Ross Chastain is, right?
I've heard the name, but not. He walked by me. I didn't.
You know what? So you probably don't know about his mentality this year, as we're calling it.
What is it?
The Ross Chastain don't give an F tour.
Really?
Yeah, he made a bus stop, as we call it, at Watkins Glen for this one. So
Yeah. Well, anyway, he walks right by me. Chase Elliott. I was holding the door open for him.
really,
Yeah, because when I first got there, the sports center at Finger Lakes Time, Pete Lamb I texted him and said, "Where you at?" I just pulled up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm at the media center. Chase Elliott's about to do an interview because he just won the poll." And okay, so I'm rushing over to the media center, get in there. All of a sudden, coming out the door is Chase Elliott out of one of the other doors, and I didn't technically hold the door open for him, but I was basically right. I was the one who walked in right before him, and so I got to, be up close with him, and it's a pretty cool experience. I did like coming to see you because that's like, from where the media center is, it's cool that you get to walk down pit road and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't really get a good look at the race.
right.
But it's cool that I got to sit up there and actually watch the race a little bit. But no, it was a good time once again. I always look forward to going to it.
Yeah, quite the hike for you from the media center where I am. Did you take advantage?
No, I
You
didn't.
did not take advantage of the golf shuttle service
I
that they
didn't
had
mind
this
it.
year.
I don't mind walking.
It's a long hike. Did you catch any of the race on Sunday? Obviously,
Yes, I had it on the
it was
TV.
rain. It was. Let me properly phrase this: lightning delayed because they do run in the rain now on road courses. Which, by the way, as a fan there, and this is a long-standing problem, not with Watkins Glen. I don't want to throw them under the bus directly, although each track can improve on this. Lack of internet connectability and cell service still somehow in the 21st century that we are in. And with the lightning delays, but ended up being just a tad over an hour in total. Would have been nice to know outside of just, kind of standing underneath the metal bleachers that we were doing. So either way, obviously, but obviously once I got going, sounds like you tuned in for at least a little bit anyway.
Yes, yeah, I had it on the TV. I was watching it because we were trying to get a story out as well. So I was keeping track of it, see how long of a delay it was going to be. But yeah, Chase Elliott, surprised he didn't win. Kind of blew it there at the end.
Well, yeah, he did. I mean, this is, I guess, where I can kind of come in and do my own.
Allmendinger finished second in both races.
Yeah. Well, Larson and Allmendinger first and second in both, and Saturday and Sunday. But I mean, all weekend. I even brought this up during the Xfinity race, and some guy next to me was like, "Well, he's been doing it all day." I'm like, I don't know if that's the best move on the final restart late in a race, but what's different, NASCAR has a couple different rules, how they do restarts, procedures, and stuff like that. But at road courses like Watkins Glen, the only person who gets to dictate where they start inside or outside lane is whoever is P1 first position. I understand why maybe in theory you don't want to start on the inside. It's a lot of blocking you have to do. You only have to worry about blocking one lane on the outside. And this weekend, the outside was giving the better traction off the jump. That being said, going into Sunday, both races before the ARCA and Xfinity, the guys who started on the outside lost the lead and lost the race. So, I mean, it's a tough call. But that being said, I mean, Chase was dominant, but at the same token, the other dominant car pretty much all day outside of him was Kyle Larson speed-wise. You could have made a case for Michael McDowell, but it's not like the wrong guy won. That being said, the fact that Chase is upset for something that he would and has done in the past is laughable to me, and it's laughable that the fan base is that upset with Kyle Larson all of a sudden. But yeah, I mean,
I like your seats you have too, right up where the restarts are, the first turn.
Yeah. I mean, they're nice. You get to see them come down, obviously from down the front stretch, a pretty good bit from the flag stand down through the turn and then up through the S's. So really can't beat the view. I know if you go like literally last row in the main grandstand on the front stretch, you can see a good portion of the track, but I wouldn't trade turn one for nothing. We're a collective fun group of people down there, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, overall, pretty good weekend again at the Glen. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you had yourself a good time as well, even though you're on the beat, as we would call it. And
Is Larson? Is he a good road course guy?
yeah, he is. He is. Not as good as Chase, but he is. I mean, this is a guy that has battled for road course wins before. Goes back to back at the Glen. Won there last year, and now obviously this year. And he's had his fair share of good runs. I mean, he won Sonoma a couple of years ago, last year. So
He's got a championship, right?
yeah, he won. He's the reigning Cup champion.
Yeah, I thought so.
So
As Elliott won it.
yep, 2020 Cup champion. So. Yeah, I mean we're going in obviously now, and not to break too far away, but Daytona's the regular season finale this weekend. Should be a good one. Recommend everybody tune in, and we'll pretty much you got a bunch of guys up for grabs for one last spot. Point wise, if everything holds and there's no new winner, Ryan Blaney gets in more than likely. If not, whoever wins, if they don't have a win, gets in. So.
Just quick on Saturday, what are your thoughts on Ty Gibbs and William Byron going at it?
Laughable. So I understand why people could be upset, or as I clicked the wrong button to at Ty Gibbs. But here's the thing: William Byron, they ran hard at each other all day, but Byron ran elbows out on Ty Gibbs all day. So I don't know why people are that upset. I think it's just a lot of people who are Hendrick fans are just upset, and then whatever. I mean, you're coming down with 5 to go. I wouldn't be backing out. The win's on the line. I know I wouldn't. So I think a lot of people are just being mad to be mad as usual. Them cheating Yoders type stuff, as we jokingly call it online. So not a problem with it. I'd rather have that than what Ty Gibbs did than laying up like William Byron's been known to do in the past. So, yeah, it's what it is. All right, let's really get in now to what we have in store. Fantasy football preview. Nick's
how we doing
of year. So I have at least over here on my screen, I have quarterback. I have the quarterback list. I have the running back list. Wide receiver, tight end, kicker, and defensive special teams. I don't know. Let's start with quarterback, I guess, here in a way. I think we both have, me to you, have rather unique styles that we prefer out of quarterbacks. Not to say you're more of the traditionalist, but your quarterback picks, from what I usually pick up on, you tend to go after the way they always been highlighted to me. Your Tom Brady's, Aaron Rodgers, that type of deal where you're, quarterback throws the ball, that type of deal. Me, I'm a little bit different. I like the dual threat guys. I like if they can get some run on the ground. You can back this up. I'm known to go after the Cam Newtons, as I call them, or the Russell Wilsons.
I take my time until I draft a quarterback.
Right. I mean, you are very, but I'm that way too, though. At this point, I'm not going outright. I think you're going to see a lot of people, and this is actually a point I did want to discuss with quarterbacks a little bit here. Is somebody asked me, oddly enough, a couple weeks ago, where you would draft Josh Allen and and Patrick Mahomes this year. I don't know. I know you're going to see a lot of people reach. I've seen people kind of go second round with them in mock drafts. I wouldn't do that, but more power to you, I guess, if you want to, in my mind, tank your team in that sense.
You're interesting. You're like with quarterback. You tend to go sometimes early with them, sometimes late.
Yeah, I think it depends how everything else is kind of falling.
I want to get your thoughts. We both know my brother very well.
A lot. I mean, CMC getting him in the 2
But-
spot. I mean, you can make a case for.
Well, I know who
first
he's
overall.
taking in
We
the
know
second
how
round
good
if
he is
he's
when on the
available.
field, so love that. Debo Samuel,
What
talked
are
about this
your
during the
thoughts
marathon.
of him
Paul,
doing
what's your
that
thoughts?
every
It's almost
year?
embarrassing
Well,
at this
okay,
point.
I don't
you
like
know
it.
what we're
No matter
talking
how
about.
they used him last season
My
was
brother's a
top
big
3
Patrick Mahomes
fantasy
guy, and
receiver, so anytime you
I
can get
think
him late
Josh
in round
Allen's
2,
probably the
that's a
best
steal.
fantasy
Tyreek
quarterback
Hill coming
today,
back.
but
Not my favorite target this season, but round 3.
Patrick Mahomes,
He's
you
the
still
best
can't
guy. He's
pass
the
up
last
on
receiver
him.
in
But
that top tier.
my
You know,
brother,
we'll say the second tier. I like the big 3, and then there's
he always
the
likes
next
to take him
tier.
in the second
Happy
round.
to
What are
get
your
him.
thoughts?
J.K. Dobbins.
I don't
Stefan's
like
not
it.
happy
I think
with
it's
me
a
about that
reach.
one.
It is.
I'm
You're
usually
wasting a.
targeting him in
You
round
got to
5,
get a
but,
running back and a
I found
receiver,
that
or
was a
two
good-
running
I
backs,
felt that
two
was a good place to
receivers.
strike there on Dobbins. Like
You're
him a lot. I think he
wasting a
breaks out
pick
this season.
because
Much like we were
when you
talking
look at
about
running
Javonte Williams,
backs,
you're not taking him at his ceiling. I
sure.
think he's a very high ceiling.
I'm
but
sure
first, the
quarterbacks
rookies,
score the most
Brees Hall,
points.
those first and second
But
round
the
running backs in
difference-
fantasy.
I don't know
good
about
money,
that week in, week
for
out
a while
sometimes, though,
now. I
man.
think
No,
Brees in the
but
fifth's
the
a fine
difference from
value.
the first quarterback to
Right.
the 20th quarterback, it's not that big of a difference compared to the first running back to the 20th running back. So
Oh, yeah, in that sense, I agree. Yeah.
the value is one
Craig.
reason why we take running backs.
Hey
and
guys,
receivers early.
this is just my workout stuff.
If you have a secret
I
identity,
think
you need to keep it secret.
that,
And if you,
and this is going to be a tough call, but I don't necessarily know where I would exactly kind of go quarterback wise. So because a lot of people, this happened with me last year. I had to auto draft a couple teams because I was on vacation. And it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and panic per se, but, you know, like I got stuck with Jalen Hurts. And going into it, I was like, yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but he kind of fits the bill for what I go after every now and then. You know, and this brings up the point where, sure, you can rush and grab Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but are you going to be that upset with Jalen Hurts when he throws for 150 and rushes for 100 every week? Like, that's not bad,
He's a
at
great-
the end of the day.
He's a great fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
Same with Dak Prescott.
Right. I mean, and I was going to bring up, another guy that kind of probably is going to end up filling the bill. Actually, probably three guys in all honesty. I'm intrigued what Tua does this year. I don't think I would take him as my QB1, obviously, unless I'm really put into a corner. But, a guy like Trevor Lawrence, I think he probably fits that bill a little bit this year potentially. I know they're going to try and pocket him more, but he's got the running ability. Justin Fields, obviously, as well. And I haven't mentioned, obviously, probably the brighter names of that now moving forward being, a guy like Kyler Murray. So it's always interesting. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. I don't know how exactly the experiments with our quarterbacks. I don't want to homer our guys here, but Daniel Jones is ranked inside the top 20 at 19. Wentz is down at 24 for us in Washington. I might be a bit of a Daniel Jones apologist to a degree. He's the guy I wanted Washington to draft over Haskins a few years ago. I'm a Wentz guy as well. I don't know why. There's a lot of interesting guys kind of hanging low.
So you like Wentz?
Well, like Mac Jones is another one where when they throw the ball, it kind of that's their game plan. They just kind of let it ride. Obviously, that's a bit more of a boomer bust situation. If he's healthy, Jameis Winston at 20 that's a fairly low number in my mind for him as well.
I like Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
He's a great fantasy quarterback. Like we said, though, like you said, Hurts, Prescott, Winston. These guys are good fantasy quarterbacks. They're not Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. There is a huge difference when that matters. Yeah. Especially when I remember Winston. I used to like him back in Tampa Bay. He was a great garbage guy. Tampa Bay would get behind so many points, and when you're behind by so much, you're just going to continually to throw the ball, and he's getting these cheap touchdowns, which are points that you can need. And yeah, he's a great garbage guy. So so there is a difference between a great fantasy player, great fantasy quarterback, compared to a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
So let's do this with each position here. One guy to keep an eye on, one guy to avoid, and then one sleeper.
Okay.
So I'll go first because I have this pretty much teed up the way I like. So the one to keep an eye on for me is Kyler Murray. I don't necessarily know. I've had him in a couple leagues through the past couple years. He's had, in terms of performance, a quiet offseason, which can be good, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. Obviously, a lot of the main stuff with him is circulated around his contract and what is now the axed portion of it, where it's he has to do homework and stuff like that. I don't necessarily care too much about that in that sense, but I'm going to keep an eye on him. I think he's probably the next great fantasy quarterback in that sense. My one to avoid, and I'm not too sure how I exactly truly feel about this, is that I don't know if it's going to be a great fit, is Russell Wilson in Denver. I know a lot of people are trending in his direction again. I don't know. I think he'll do good still at the end of the day. I just don't know if he's worth if you need to lunge at a quarterback. I don't know if he's necessarily a guy, especially Tim Patrick's hurt. And the wide receiving core at Denver anyway is very, I wouldn't say questionable, but they can be pretty hit and miss in terms of, actual production.
I agree with that.
And, my sleeper, who I don't think is necessarily a sleeper per se, but the fact they have him ranked this low, I think he's going to be a really great steal if you can get him, is Derek Carr again. Started slow last year, but really came on strong throughout the year. I think a lot of people are expecting some good things out of Vegas, period, this year. I know I'm one of them. I think they are a team, period, to be a sleeper in the AFC West. So I'm definitely leaning along with that as Derek Carr's my, I guess, de facto sleeper.
Okay. My guy to keep an eye on is actually your sleeper, Derek Carr.
Okay.
I think.
Well, that's the thing with him. Like, the only reason why I have him that low or that way is because they have him ranked low in my mind.
But I would keep an eye on him. Devontae Adams coming over.
Mm-hmm.
He's already got Hunter Renfrow, who he loves. Darren Waller. He's got weapons on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs in the backfield. So it's a big year for Derek Carr. So I keep an eye on him. Obviously, there's a lot more better quarterbacks and better options for you because it's such a tough position because it's people drafting quarterbacks in the second round. There's people drafting quarterbacks in the 12th round. It's still definitely the widest range of when to draft a quarterback in a fantasy league. Guy to avoid. I mentioned Devontae Adams. I would avoid Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if you can trust his receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
What he has going on in Green Bay. It's a tough situation, and his age is, you got to start really considering his age a little bit.
And for what it's worth, I mean, ESPN, the 5 insiders, or whatever you want to call it, rank wise, they had him coming in at P11. So, I mean,
I'd stay away from Aaron Rodgers this year. And my sleeper this year, and we've already mentioned it, Jameis Winston. I like what's going on. Michael Thomas coming back this year. I think New Orleans could be a sleeper playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're win the NFC, but with Jameis Winston, I think fantasy-wise, I think he could be a stellar quarterback again. So that's my sleeper this year is Jameis Winston.
All right, let's move on to running backs. Obviously, probably the most important position now in fantasy. We've kind of seen the evolution of it kind of come back around in that sense where at one point, when we kind of first started in fantasy, Nick, it felt like running backs were key, and then kind of made a little bit of a switch over to wide receivers for a little bit. Now it's kind of back to running backs.
This is a tough one.
Kind of like your usual suspects are at the top. You'll get the ESPN top 5. It's Jonathan Taylor, it's McCaffrey, it's Eckler, it's Henry, it's Cook. I mean, it's your typical squad kind of at the top here.
I gotta ask you before you go.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you think this is the deepest running backs have ever been? They are deep this year. I know I said it's not a difference between 1 and 20.
I don't know if deep is the right term. I know where you're going with it, but I don't know. I've very mixed emotions about running backs this year, to be honest. And that'll be something we can really dive into when we do our pit, our 3 guys. But just as an example, I find it weird that like Nick Chubb is down to 13th for some reason. Again, I'm not trying to I guess maybe jump ahead of the curve, but
it's tough.
There's a lot of
still there, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of names that don't make sense where they are to me. I think part of it is just a lot of like sexy picks and stuff like that. To me, and I know he's probably ranked this low because they're taking away the wide receiver position with him, but like Cordero Patterson being 34th is kind of laughable to me considering we know what he does. Obviously it could be a plethora of different things and that we just don't know, but it's just weird. I also, another, thing that sticks out to me, for example, Aaron Jones for Green Bay, right? 11th, A.J. Dillon's in 27th. And a lot of people pick A.J. Dillon to be their sleeper picks in fantasy this year, which I'm fine with. Like, he's definitely going to get the red zone touches, for example, in Green Bay. But if that's the case, why is he the one in 27th when he probably should be ranked higher than Adams in this, or than Jones in this situation? I mean, that's my thoughts on it, I guess. I don't disagree. I don't know if it's depth. I don't know if it's width that's better for running backs this year.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know if you've could disagree with me. Jonathan Taylor is the no-brainer, number one overall pick this year. And he's sighing, and I think he's disagreeing.
I don't necessarily disagree. I think a lot of it's just, I mean, I don't know. The Colts give me weird I mean, this is a different discussion. I don't know how you feel, but the Colts give me just very bad vibes this year.
I didn't even mention it in quarterback. Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think of Matt Ryan. Indianapolis has been trying to find a Peyton Manning replacement for years now.
Yeah.
And Andrew Luck, they thought they had their guy, but ever since him, it's just been they've been trying out these quarterbacks, whether it's Carson Wentz or Phillip
The
Rivers,
Seneca Wallace experience.
Jacoby Brissett, and now Matt Ryan. I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know why they don't ever take a chance at a rookie quarterback, try to develop someone.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think Jonathan Taylor is a no-brainer for number one overall, just on the season he had. Obviously, you got the Delvin Cooks, Austin Eckler. Everyone knows how I feel about Derrick Henry. Obviously, Derrick Henry gets the hate because he's not a PPR guy, not like the other three. But I think the numbers he puts up, it doesn't really matter with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a non-PPR league, he is an absolute beast. But I think he's the number one guy. Obviously, I don't want to spoil my guys to avoid. Obviously, there is the biggest question mark with the two running backs, in my opinion, has to be Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. Like, when do you draft them?
I agree with half of your statement on that one.
Which one do you agree with?
McCaffrey.
Agreeing how? You like him or still?
No.
You don't
No.
like him?
No.
Be like Saquon.
He's nearing Mike Trout territory for me.
Really?
Yeah.
But you agree with Saquon. You still think Saquon could be something.
Yes. Maybe to a degree it's a little bit my sleeper, but he's not my outright sleeper.
I think people are taking McCaffrey earlier than Saquon right now.
100%, yeah.
But they are definitely just what has it been? 3 straight years. The two of them gotten hurt.
Pretty much, yeah.
Something like that. They barely played those two, and they just keep ranking them.
Well,
so high.
Saquon's injury last year was not on him. Like, that was just a dumb luck moment.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with you though for running back. Keep an eye on avoid and sleeper.
Love this guy. Honestly, behind Derrick Henry, I'd put him number 2 in my opinion. Well, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and then this guy's my 3. I love Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's an absolute stud. I liked his rookie year last year. I think he's going to be a PPR beast if you're playing a PPR league. I think he's an absolute fantasy stud, and I think he's got the potential of being a number 1 overall pick someday.
Okay.
So I love Najee Harris. Guys to avoid, I tell you right now, I'm doing 2 of them, McCaffrey and Saquon. I would not take a chance on them. If that's your top running back, good luck, because there is a chance that from week to week that they will get hurt again. And then my sleeper this year is J.K. Dobbins. People forget that the Ravens, they lost both their running backs at the beginning of last year. You think it's just Lamar Jackson game? No, they got different options now here in Baltimore, and they got this great preseason winning streak going. So they're playing hard. Ravens always seem to be there. I like J.K. Dobbins as a sleeper this year.
So for me, my one to keep an eye on, and I personally feel like it's only because he's low, and I know this is going to be a very homerish pick for me. No, it's Nick Chubb. Now, I don't know how great he's going to do. He's obviously now going to be the defensive focus with Deshaun being suspended 11 games instead of, for life. But, I still think at the end of the day, a guy like Chubb is enough of a beast that, he can probably net you 80 yards and a touchdown every week, and I feel like you'd probably be pretty satisfied with it to that end. My one to avoid is McCaffrey. I'm 100% with you there on that end because he's hurt. But another one for me to avoid, in all honesty, is your guy to keep an eye on, Najee Harris.
Whoa!
No, hold on. It's not in the sense that you probably think. I still think he will have a very good, respectable year, but I do think there's probably a little bit of a sophomore season slump.
Quarterback situation.
Yeah, it's not the best situation in Pittsburgh right now. Then I think the underrated part, again, they didn't do a ton with that offensive line. So that being said, I'm not saying to completely avoid Najee. I'm saying don't make a far-fetched reach for him if you don't have to. Which is tough, right? I mean, he's the 5th rated running back. I think what I'm telling you is if he's there for you at 7, go ahead and take him. But if he's there at 3, I wouldn't reach that type of deal.
We got an interesting draft coming up.
But I am with you. But I am with you on the McCaffrey front. He gets hurt. He plays 3 games a year. He's literally the NFL Mike Trout.
You don't want to waste your first round pick.
No.
And people will.
Right. I do have 2 sleepers to that end with running back. One of them for me is Saquon. I do think that, again, if you don't reach for him, I do think he'll have.
When do you draft him?
I think if he's available, to me personally, if he's available late 2nd, early 3rd, depending upon where you are in your draft order, I think he'd be all for it.
He'd be great as an RB2.
Yeah. To that end, although I am intrigued to see what his actual usage is this year, Zeke is kind of in the same boat as Saquon in a way. Now we've seen the decline of Zeke over the past couple of years. I don't think he'll have the same usage. I think they'll probably use Tony Pollard a ton more again. You'll probably see more of a true 50-50 split between them. But I prefer that 50-50 split over the Green Bay 50-50 split between Dillon and Jones, and to that end. I think Zeke still has a lot to offer in the red zone. Pollard, I see more being used out in the open a little bit as opposed to Zeke. I think Zeke, there's just a little bit more squeeze when it comes to that. Again, don't go reaching for him just because of his name. I think if he's available somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round, have at it. But I wouldn't go reaching for him in the 2nd round by any means to that end. So,
all right.
I think another one to keep an eye on. I don't want to go in depth on this one either, but Josh Jacobs being in the 20s all of a sudden is very intriguing.
They got a good team there.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and they let what's his face go.
What are your thoughts on Antonio Gibson?
Yeah, I mean he's down 24th. I know they're going to use him in the passing game a little bit more.
He didn't do as well.
They're going to use him more in the passing game this year, but it is interesting that as he's kind of fallen a little bit in the rankings, you've seen McKissick also kind of rise up, so I'm not too sure, but I do know they plan on using him a little bit more in the passing game this year as opposed to other couple of years in the past. All right, wide receiving. Again, this is probably
we got the MVP on
sure,
wide receivers.
For sure, probably the 2nd most important position, depending upon who you ask.
Yeah.
But wide receiver to me this is where I find a lot of questionable rankings, to be honest with you. I feel like a lot of guys are interchangeable, especially a wide receiver compared to other positions if you just ride a hot hand. I'm just so using the name last year as an example because it ended up working out really well. But like a guy like Tim Patrick kind of just came on the scene last year. And that's the way wide receivers have tended to be in the past. I mean, that's how Odell kind of got discovered in fantasy was midway through his sophomore year when he all of a sudden just became Eli's favorite target all of a sudden. That he kind of jumped up boards, and it kind of took a full year for people to really fully believe in him, but that's what kind of ended up happening. As is the case, there's usually a guy every year that's kind of the case. Last year ended up being kind of a combo of like Tim Patrick in a way. You have a couple other guys that usually kind of go in and out and stuff like that. I mean, I know I might make some people mad. Gabe Davis comes to mind to me with the Bills the past couple of years where, you kind of can pick him up on the waiver wire potentially, and it kind of works out well. So then this is the way the wide receiver positions kind of change now, how they're used in the running game. Guys like Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, how they kind of, and both, I mean, especially on the Tyreek front, obviously with a completely new team, it is intriguing to see how everything kind of shakes out with a new playbook like that.
I got one question for you.
Sure.
Obviously, wide receivers is not as important as running backs as it seems. Other than like 2016, when Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. were your top 2 picks.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange to me. Running backs must have been down that year, but.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like there was a weird 3-year run where wideouts were more important than running backs.
But now the running backs are back in charge. But Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, won a lot of leagues last year.
That's true.
When do you take Cooper Kupp?
So here's the thing with or wide receivers rather, they tend not to have back-to-back years in the way that they perform.
I don't think Cooper Kupp's ever gonna have the year he had last year.
No, probably not.
It was unbelievable.
I mean, you think about it, you bring up a guy, perfect example, two guys of it, Antonio Brown and Odell. You kind of go every other year with wideouts where they'll have a really good, top 5 finishing year, and then the next year it's probably somewhere in the 20 to 15th ranking where they end up, and then it kind of goes back and forth. And a lot of it has to do with this defense and how people play them from year to year and stuff like that. So I am with you. I as much as I love Cooper Kupp, I don't know if I want to take him outright. Wide receivers, like I said, you can kind of find a lot of good ones just kind of laying in the weeds anyway. Yeah. That's the intriguing part, I guess, with a lot of this is, right, there's a lot of wide receivers up there that do have some question marks regarding, their quarterbacks here moving forward for the year. Look, as much as I think he could kind of be a sleeper in a way with Tua in Miami. Tyreek at 8's interesting. I don't know how that's going to really shake out. Another one that's kind of up there, again, as usual, DJ Moore with Carolina. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy, but who knows what Matt Rule is going to do week to week because it's Matt Rule. Michael Pittman Jr. for Indianapolis. I've heard not the best things with Matt Ryan so far in camp. A lot of things like that. Not to pick on a guy this low in the rankings, but you'll get 24th with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I don't know how good Jared Goff's actually going to be this year. I know Detroit's kind of turned into this nice little dark horse darling in a lot of ways, but I don't know what you're going to get out of Jared Goff this year in year 2 of Man Campbell at the helm there. I don't know. Wide receiver's the one where, to me anyway, depth plays the biggest role in terms of where you can really find guys, and you don't have to lunge at guys if you don't have to, even though year after year it seems that we do see it. I mean, not to pick on him again, but Matt loved tandeming Mahomes and Tyreek Hill for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Tyreek Hill this year. Are we sold on Tua?
I don't know if sold's the right word, but I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that statement. Do we think Jamar Chase is going to have a sophomore slump?
I think that one more depends on if Burrow stays healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. If he loses Burrow, then
Yeah.
his value goes down.
I mean, Brandon Allen, the one game he had to play last year, did good, but I mean, it was definitely nowhere near Joe Burrow territory.
One guy I've never been high on. I don't know what your thoughts on him, but A.J. Brown. I have not been that big on the guy.
Yeah, I
what do you think
mean,
of him with Jalen Hurts now.
I'm intrigued by the tandem because I mean, obviously, he's not going to be fighting in theory with Derrick Henry for touches in that sense, and I think Jalen Hurts and Tannehill are kind of on a similar plane in terms of attributes and ability, but I definitely like him probably more this year in Philadelphia than I did last year in Tennessee in that sense.
My last question for you.
Yeah.
You've never been high on this guy, Devontae Adams. Is he better or worse this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to kind of see how he does out of the shadow of Green Bay kind of casting a light on him. I don't know.
He is got that chemistry with Carr, playing college together.
Yeah, I mean I don't know if it's necessarily. I mean, it's just intriguing because nobody has him in the top 3 of their personal rankings. It seems like you look at how they break things down. So I don't know. I mean, the main issue now is he's going to be such a main focal point now in that offense. I don't know. I don't mind eating my words. I mean, I've had to a few different times with him in the past. I still think of him as more of a wideout too.
Yep.
I mean, sorry, it is what it is.
This is his opinion, folks.
Yeah, well, my bad. My bad if you hate it. So these ones are definitely tougher for me in the wideout to look at, stuff like this. I'm gonna keep an eye on personally Brandon Cooks this year. I am a Davis Mills believer. I don't think he's I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people kind of
No,
just
he
make
isn't.
him out to be. Houston's an intriguing team. They do have obviously controversy still kind of surrounding them with the fallout of Deshaun, but I do think that team's probably a little bit better than some people give credit for. To be honest with you, I'm super intrigued to see how they actually play out this year. Not to probably jump ahead to say next week's edition of the podcast, where we probably really look at, or 2 weeks rather from now, when we really look at NFL and previewing the year as a whole. I kind of lean on them potentially winning the division, the AFC South this year, in all honesty. So we know what Cooks can do in the past with his past steps. I really want to keep an eye on him. My guy to avoid this year, and again, I don't think it's necessarily indicative in this sense of how it's going to actually be. But Stephon Diggs, I look, he's still going to be Buffalo's number one option. I'm still very high on Buffalo this year. I don't think it's going to be a question. But rarely have we ever seen Diggs kind of do back-to-back really good years in this sense. I don't know if we're going to see another top 5 performance out of him. That being said, I don't just not take him if he's available to you, for instance, in because I don't know how people really fully draft in our league in of itself with Jerry. One is just a nut house in of itself sometimes. If you're at a spot in the 3rd round and he hasn't been taking it, then yeah, jump on him. I mean, come on. But I wouldn't make him my top priority. My sleeper, I don't fully. Part of this hurts because I don't know how this is going to fully pull out and play out with him. But I am intrigued by Jerry Jeudy. I think a lot of focus is going to be on, Cortland Sutton. As I said, I usually the Denver wide receiver core is not a mess, but it's always intriguing. But that being said, it's only going to be really a 2-dog fight in Denver this year between himself and Sutton, with Patrick being out. And I think he knows how to play the NFL game now. I'd imagine, I'd hope anyway, that he kind of would get it together. And look, I mean, Russell Wilson's probably going to get a guy like him into shape better than a guy like Drew Lock.
Yeah. Guy to keep an eye on. This is a tough one. But one guy I do like, we have not mentioned him yet, is CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. As much as I do not, I'll tell you, every day of my life, I do not like the Dallas Cowboys one bit. But
who does?
with Dak Prescott being a good fantasy quarterback, CeeDee Lamb with the potential that he has, I like him this year. I really do. Your ones to avoid, I don't disagree with you on Diggs, but I got 2 others, Paul, that I say you got to avoid. And one is Tyreek Hill. We're going to find out if it was all Patrick Mahomes or was it, is Tyreek Hill this elite receiver. I don't think he is an elite receiver. I think he's a great receiver. He's the fastest receiver, but I don't know if he's an elite receiver. Another one is Deebo Samuel. I don't know. With all the contract negotiations going on with him, is he going to get wide receiver money? Is he more looked as a running back? So there's a lot going on in his head right now. A lot going on with that Niners team. Still on, I still don't know if they're fully committed with Trey Lance. So they got a lot of problems for a team that was just playing the NFC Championship game. So I'd stay away from Deebo and Tyreek Hill, but I don't disagree on staying away from Diggs as well. So there's a lot more sleepers if there's not a lot of guys you want to take early who are ranked higher. As much as I would love to say Michael Thomas is my sleeper this year, I'm gonna go.
And he's hurt again.
I'm gonna go Jalen Waddle as my sleeper this year. I think he's another. I'm a huge PPR guy, I guess now, and he is he's a PPR
darling.
Yeah, he's He's a slot guy, catching the balls, getting you close to 10 catches a game, hopefully. And the points will rack up. So I like Jalen Waddle more than I like Tyreek Hill, even though they're on the same team.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's we'll have to move through this last three.
Well, the other positions, I mean, they're not.
Kind of quickly. Tight end. Really tight end, it's tough, right? I mean, you have a very top-heavy portion, then kind of trails out from there. You tend to see Kelsey go first round, tend to see Kittle go first round. I'm kind of intrigued because the separation is really different this year. I mean, they have Mark Andrews ranked second in the ESPN rankings.
He had a great year last year.
Yeah. So we'll just go through this quick. For me, my one to keep an eye on is T.J. Hawkinson. A lot of people are taking him as like the avoid pick. I don't understand why. To me, he's probably going to be the number one option in Detroit no matter what. And look, to be honest with you, Goff liked throwing to him in the second half of last year. He did. So they have good chemistry going. He's my one to keep an eye on. One to avoid's Kyle Pitts. I see you over there, but here's the thing with that.
Oh.
Hold on. On what planet, even though he's going into his second year, on what planet would you have him ranked lower his rookie year with Matt Ryan throwing to him, but have him ranked higher with Marcus Mariota throwing to him?
Yeah, I get your point.
I don't know about that. In my sleeper, I don't think he's not a sleeper to me. He's not a sleeper to you. I think he's a sleeper to a lot of the general public still is Mike Gesicki of Miami. So that's kind of where I stand with tight ends. It's a strange group this year. I'm intrigued. I know, not to go tooting down my own horn on the homer front, but Logan Thomas is hanging in the weeds. I don't know if he'll be fully ready to go week one, but he's a guy to keep an eye on.
Before me and Paul go at it here, obviously to keep an eye on is clearly Travis Kelce. He's the only tight end that should be remotely close to the first round. Obviously, he's the man at this position. But my guy to keep an eye on is Kyle Pitts. I love this guy.
I don't like my thing with it is it's not so much that, it's just that I just don't understand why they love him this year all of a sudden with Marcus Mariota.
I get your point. His quarterback is definitely a question mark. But I think this someone's got to score in Atlanta, so I think he's a stud and I like him. A guy to avoid, I would say Mark Andrews. I know Lamar Jackson loves throwing to Mark Andrews because seems like it's his favorite target, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think he can put up the same year that he just put up last year. So I would stay away from Mark Andrews. My sleeper is Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's got a chance to be a top five tight end this year. I think he's better than people give him credit for, and I think he's a better option than A.J. Brown on that team. So. And Darren Waller's another guy. It's interesting. I don't know if he's definitely not a sleeper, but right. I would say to avoid away. Last year's season concerned me about Waller because I had him. He didn't do great after week one. He had that 19 target for week one, and I don't know. I would avoid away from Darren Waller this year.
Keep it on you, Nick. Kickers are always an interesting scenario here, but the main issue with them is everybody kind of tends to have the same thing. I'm guessing our keep an eye on will always be Justin Tucker.
Absolutely. I don't care that they have this Evan McPherson up here. Justin Tucker is the GOAT.
You want to talk about actually an avoid thing. Evan McPherson's my avoid. Sophomore slump potentially.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree with you. He's avoid him. But my sleeper kicker, why not Graham Gano? Why not Graham Gano of the New York Giants?
Well, that's the thing. Kickers on that front those are the ones you kind of want. I kind of am going to piggyback off of that one in a way, but only because I think obviously they'll be scoring a ton as Ryan Suckup for Tampa Bay.
Carlson's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, kickers are always plentiful. I mean,
defense.
I would be more on board, and again, I don't mean any disrespect to the Bills anyway here, but I'd be all on board Tyler Bass of the fact that the second half of the year is not, in Orchard Park and fall to winter. So
I don't know what to do on defenses.
Yeah, defense is always an interesting one. I'll go first.
Commanders.
Well. They are my sleeper. Not to be a homer, but they are my sleeper. They're kind of laying in the weeds at 14. Obviously, linebacking and secondary kind of leaves a little bit to be desired, but they step up. especially when that D-line is kind of on full cylinders, which they should be all year. The only question mark is when Chase Young's going to be back, but outside of that, they're hard to beat. So, and the intriguing part, obviously, with defense, the back end of it, special teams. Antonio Gibson's been taking some returns at both kicking and punt returning, so that's intriguing. Excuse me, I think, one to avoid, I think there's a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover for the Rams. Obviously, Darnold's a hard guy to stop, but they are minus guys like Von Miller now officially. Weddle guys, a lot of name brand guys are now gone. Whether it's to retirement or new places to play. I'm keeping an eye on the 49ers. They kind of laid in the weeds last year a little bit. Now they're kind of ranked a little bit up there. They do intrigue me. They're a defense that, to be honest with you, they don't get a ton of turnovers, but they don't give up a ton of points. And at the end of the day, that's always the most pivotal portion of fantasy every now and then, is making sure that your defense, the way I always look at defense is, as long as they're not giving me negative points, I'll take that to the bank any day of the week. So those are kind of my three. I mean, defense and special teams is always tough because that's the definition of you're taking a whole side of the ball, whereas you're going from individual positions to positions.
Yeah, my no-brainer, I say keep an eye on is the Bills. I think they got the best defense in the league. Mm-hmm. Will they win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But ones to avoid, I would say avoid the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense this year. You never know with that team from year to year.
Hope Vita Vea stalks you in your dreams.
Is that a Bills player?
Vita Vea? No, it's a Buccaneers player.
Anyway, and then my sleeper is let's say I don't know. We'll say Ravens defense. No particular reason by it. I gotta do a little bit more study on the defense, special teams, but no particular reason. We'll say Ravens defense. They're up there, so who cares?
Right. All right, so that takes care of our fantasy preview. We will be Nick. What's planned on going next week again? We'll preview some college football because
we might have to do the NFL. I don't know if you want to get it to sub.
Oh, that's true. I forgot that you will be out in 2 weeks. So maybe it'll just be our general football preview next week then.
Works for me.
So
the season will be in the books.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and have that. And I kind of forgot about that. That's on my end. I apologize.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just brought it up to you before the show. But.
Yeah, but either way, it should be fresh on the brain.
Yeah.
Fresh on my fresh brain.
Yes.
Nate Sharman's right outside the studio. I'm shouting him out because he just walked by and looked in all innocently. Nick, who are you shouting out today?
I'm shouting out my friend Blake. It was his birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Blake.
Yeah, fantasy guy. Trying to get in that Jerry 1 fantasy league. He keeps asking me. Tough league to get in. But Paul's back this year.
I am back this year. We didn't talk about that too much, actually.
No. 3-time champ Paul is back after a year off. So, but yeah, shout out Blake. It was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Blake.
Birthday, Blake. We'll be back at next Tuesday, 10 a.m. football preview stuff across all boards for college and the NFL. Like, share, and subscribe. All the fun stuff. Listen to us on major podcasting platforms, Spotify, YouTube, anytime. See you next week.